Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're stepping out of the bright lights and diving headfirst into the shadows to recount what's known as the Pune apartment incident. Picture this, right? A towering high-rise in Pune, totally surrounded by a raging thunderstorm, where the line between supernatural terror and just horrifying human cruelty completely blurs. This isn't just your standard campfire ghost story. It is a genuinely chilling look at what actually happens behind closed doors.
I am very hungry. Please, give me something to eat. I mean, just imagine hearing that desperate, super weak plea echoing from behind a heavy padlock in the dead of night. This single sentence is really the anchor of our whole explainer today. It's the exact plea that pulled a totally innocent man into an absolute nightmare.
So, to understand how this nightmare unfolds, let's set the scene. On one side, we've got flat 412. This is home to the Sharma family. They're lively, super health conscious, and they have this kind of unique habit that request fresh coconut water deliveries in the middle of the night, like around 12:30 or 1 a.m., just so it's fresh for their early morning routine. Enter Manoj. He's a 50-year-old delivery guy who's been working in the area since before the building was even put up. Naturally, he agrees to make these midnight drops. But right next door to the Sharmas is flat 413. It's dark, it's silent, and it is permanently padlocked from the outside.
Now, Manoj's nightmare didn't just happen all at once. It was this slow, agonizing build over 3 consecutive rain-soaked nights. As we trace his footsteps here, you're going to see how the dread literally escalated step by step, going from just a strange noise in the dark to a full-on, unexplainable face-to-face encounter.
Okay, it all kicks off on night 1. Manoj is making his usual delivery to flat 412, and the weather is just awful. We're talking heavy rain, fierce winds, the whole shebang. As he walks past that padlocked door of flat 413, he actually hears a woman sobbing inside. He knocks, asking if someone needs help, but the crying only gets louder. Totally spooked and unable to find the building watchman anywhere, Manoj just bails. He flees out into the brutal thunderstorm, pedaling his bike all the way back to his simple mud house, just trying to shake off that really unsettling feeling.
But, well, Manoj's escape was really only physical. That night, he falls into this incredibly deep, terrifying dream. In the dream sequence, he's right back at the apartment. Except this time, flat 413 isn't padlocked at all. The door just swings wide open. Inside, the whole room is bathed in this eerie, super unnatural red light. And sitting on the floor is a widow in a white sari, weeping uncontrollably over a dead body.
So, in the dream, Manoj steps a bit closer, asking the widow what's wrong. But as he looks down at the corpse she's mourning, he realizes the dead body on the floor is his own. Yeah, it's this completely jarring double vision. He's standing there totally alive, but looking at himself dead on the floor. He wakes up absolutely screaming.
By night 2, Manoj is, understandably, psychologically shaken to his core. But hey, he still has a job to do. So he heads back up to the 4th floor to deliver those coconuts. And as he walks past flat 413, the crying starts again. Only this time, it's not just some random woman. The voice sounds incredibly familiar. Actually, it sounds exactly like his own deceased grandmother. The entity inside is literally tapping into his subconscious mind, weaponizing his deepest, most personal memories to just freeze him in absolute fear.
Fast forward to night 3. By this point, Manoj's sheer curiosity and confusion somehow actually overtake his fear. He arrives on the floor and finds the heavy padlock is just entirely gone. Now, Manoj knows from chatting with the watchman that the security camera on this floor is broken, so literally no one is watching. He gently pushes that creaking door open, and instantly he's hit with this intense, overwhelming smell of decay. Inside, this modern high-rise apartment looks like an abandoned ruin, just completely covered in spiderwebs. Following the sound of the crying, he slowly creeps his way toward the bedroom.
Inside that pitch-black, cobweb-filled room, Manoj spots a frail, skeletal woman lying on a bare iron bed. No mattress, no blankets, literally just the cold metal. She's wearing a white sari, and remarkably, terrifyingly, her face looks exactly like the grandmother he saw in his nightmare.
And then she speaks. She repeats that chilling phrase we talked about earlier. I am very hungry. Give me something to eat. Looking at this incredibly frail, starving woman, Manoj's sheer terror is suddenly just replaced by this overwhelming sense of pity. He tells her to hold on, promising to run downstairs to his bike to grab some fresh coconut water and soft coconut meat to feed her.
He practically races downstairs, grabs the coconuts, and rushes right back up to the 4th floor. But when he steps back into flat 413, the atmosphere has violently shifted. The crying has completely stopped. The room is dead silent. And the woman? She's no longer lying down. She's sitting straight up on the iron bed, with her back completely facing him.
Manoj is super confused, right? But he holds out the coconuts and says, "I brought you the food." She completely ignores him. Then, slowly she tilts her head up and just begins laughing at the ceiling. A deep, unnatural, utterly manic laugh. Caught between his fear and his genuine desire to help, Manoj takes a tentative step closer. And that is exactly when she snaps. Without moving her body at all, she whips her head a complete 180 degrees backward to face him. Manoj just stares in absolute horror. The face looking back at him has no nose. It's completely blank, distorted, and from her eyes, these thick black tears are just pouring down her face.
Manoj drops the coconuts and absolutely runs for his life. He tears down the stairs, bursting out of the apartment building and straight into the raging thunderstorm outside. He jumps onto his bicycle and pedals as fast as humanly possible into the pitch-black, rain-swept roads. He's just trying to put as much distance between himself and that high-rise as he physically can.
But the horror follows him. As he's pedaling furiously down this empty, dark stretch of road, he starts feeling this phantom presence running right behind him. He starts loudly reciting the Hanuman Chalisa. It's a Hindu devotional hymn, just praying for protection. Then, suddenly, his bicycle feels impossibly heavy, like he can barely even push the pedals. And he realizes, to his absolute terror, that the entity has materialized and is sitting right on the back seat of his bike.
Exhausted, terrified, and literally unable to pedal against this crushing weight, Manoj just collapses right into the mud. As he hits the ground, he honestly expects this is the end. But right in front of him, shining out there in the jungle, is a solitary, glowing light. It's a small house that serves as a temple for the deity Bajrang Bali.
Manoj scrambles to the door and bursts inside. The resident priest there immediately senses the dark energy and pulls him to safety. The priest then explains to Manoj what he just encountered. It wasn't just your typical ghost, it was a chalawa. That's a demonic illusion, a trickster spirit that projects familiar faces, like Manoj's grandmother, and uses a person's empathy and pity to lure them into a deadly trap. The priest makes Manoj sit by the altar and starts chanting prayers of protection. And for the rest of that stormy night, as Manoj huddles in the safety of the temple, they both hear this chilling sound coming from right outside the locked doors. Ting, 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 ting. It's the sound of Manoj's bicycle bell just ringing over and over in the rain, even though Manoj had abandoned the physical bike way down the muddy road.
Unbelievably, Manoj survives the night. He makes it home at dawn, only to find his bicycle mysteriously parked right outside his own house. For 10 whole days, he's just too terrified to go anywhere near that high-rise. But eventually, he really needs the money he's owed, so he calls Mr. Sharma, who kindly agrees to come down to Manoj's stall to pay him. And it's during this meeting that Manoj finally learns the absolute truth about Flat 413.
And guys, this is where the story shifts from supernatural terror to a really devastating real-world revelation. Mr. Sharma explains that the haunting of Flat 413 wasn't just some random demonic presence that showed up out of nowhere. It was actually born from a very real, very human tragedy that occurred years ago when the building was brand new.
The real horror is this. Flat 413 originally belonged to a young couple and their elderly, mentally unstable mother. The son and daughter-in-law basically viewed the mother as a massive burden. So one day, they just packed their bags, padlocked the heavy door of Flat 413 from the outside, and fled the city forever, literally leaving the old woman trapped all alone inside. Because she was weak and couldn't shout loudly enough through those thick, soundproofed apartment walls, literally no one realized what was happening. Mr. Sharma revealed the truly grim truth. She starved to death inside, screaming for food that never came. Manoj realizes with absolute horror that the entity's phantom plea, "I am very hungry, give me something to eat," wasn't just some trick to lure him in. It was the agonizing echo of exactly how that poor woman spent the final torturous days of her life.
The apartment was eventually discovered, purified by priests, and permanently sealed. But the trauma of that event clearly lingered, morphing her agonizing death into this vengeful entity. This whole explainer leaves us with an incredibly heavy, profound thought to consider. When you look at the Pune apartment incident, what actually scares you more? The trickster spirit waiting in the dark, or the terrifying realization of what ordinary human beings are capable of doing to their own family behind a locked door? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Take care of yourselves and stay curious.